Morning, Mr. Knox.
Hey, good morning, Judge Miller. Working with a slow mouse.
No problem. Morning, Jail.
Good morning, Your Honor. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're ready for a fiesta, man. It's 2 days away, that good old day of Halloween. You know how that goes. Are you here Friday?
No, that would be Judge Metzger. I'm here tomorrow and Thursday. So
You don't know what you're missing. Friday should be a good show.
I'll hold off on that. So it's fine.
That sounds like a plan. Are you ready to roll, ma'am?
I am whenever you guys are.
Rob will be first.
I think we're still missing the county attorney. But we don't need him for the first few cases, so we're good.
Round chair, sir. We're just waiting for everybody to get here. Morning.
Morning. Son, I'm here too.
Morning, sir. Tell me your full name.
Aron Jose Bravo.
Mr. Bravo, you were here this morning out of on a warrant out of Bisbee Justice Court for drug paraphernalia, and you failed to appear at a hearing down there. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Hang on.
All right, let her go first.
I have an address for you on West Bilby Road. Is that a good address for you here in Tucson?
Yes.
And the warrant amount is $300. Were you about to tell me something about the warrant?
I went down there to quash my warrant and I set a court date up and I was here. I missed the court date because I was here. I've been in custody and they picked me up on the October, a week before I was supposed to come here. On the Monday before I was supposed to go to Bisbee, because I went down there and I set up that's an old warrant from years ago, and I set up an appointment with the people down there, quashed my warrant and set up a court date. And then my court date was for a week after I got put in custody.
I don't have information about why you're in custody now. Do you have?
Probation violation, but I got reinstated yesterday.
Okay, so now the only thing holding you is this Bisbee matter, apparently.
Yes. I mean, no, I got 30 days in the county because I told the judge that I had a couple issues like this I needed to take care of, like with the Bisbee thing, because I kind of figured they were going to redo the warrant because it's so old. It's like from 5 years ago, the original charge.
Right. So I'm prepared to release you on the Bisbee case, so you can get that matter taken care of. But you said the judge gave you 30 days on your probation case?
Yes. This was yesterday.
Okay, so let me see if we can get you a court date in Bisbee. So basically the warrant will be quashed as of today. I'm not gonna put the $300 bond. I'm gonna release you. And let's see if we can give you a court date out beyond that 30 days. But obviously you need to get down to Bisbee on the court date that I give you, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, just December 10 in the morning is going to be your court date, all right?
All right.
So I will note that there's a probation hold for you currently and then release you on this case. You do need to show up in Bisbee on that December 10th date at 11, or they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest. And make sure you talk with your probation officer before you leave the county and go down to get that taken care of, okay?
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
You're all done for today, Mr. Bravo.
All right.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Poston.
Sending over the recommendations now. Working from home. Sometimes Apple doesn't like these, so I'm trying to share that.
Mr. Betters.
Morning, sir. Tell me your name.
Jaden Jerome Betters, and good morning, Your Honor.
Mr. Betters, you are here this morning on a warrant out of Maricopa County for misconduct involving weapons. Looks like you're also in custody on other charges here in Pima County. You do have the right to remain silent on those Maricopa charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The bond amount on that warrant is $5,000. So that is the bond amount that I am going to impose for that case today. So what that means is whenever it is that you get your Pima County case resolved, then you'll have this $5,000 warrant to deal with in Maricopa County. Once you're released here on the charges, Maricopa County will be told, and if you don't post bond, then they'll have to come get you on this particular case. So that's generally the way that works. Do you have an attorney on your pending case? You should here in Pima County.
Yes, I do.
Okay. They probably will be able to help you on this as well. Just let them know that you were seen on a Maricopa County case and they can kind of help you navigate that, I'm sure. What we're going to do today, Mr. Betters, is set a review hearing date for you. So on 11/29 at 9 a.m., you'll do much like what you're doing here today. You'll come back for a video review hearing if you are still in custody at the Pima County Jail, and it will be on this Maricopa County case just to make sure we don't lose track of that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right. That's all for today, Mr. Betters.
Good.
5,000, yes.
Mr. Polstein,
Would help if I.
Yes,
I don't have recommendations. They're not in the SharePoint. Can you just email them to me, please?
as I mentioned, I had a bit of a difficulty, so I will upload them to, I'll send them to you right now. Can I get an email, please, sir?
Yeah, Stephen.knox@pima.gov.
Thank you.
It's with a V.
Stephen.knox, KNOX at, got it, Pima.gov.
Yes, thank you.
It's the first 9 of this batch. Still working on getting the others out. A couple of tech difficulties this morning.
All right. Thanks for sending.
Yep.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Stephen Allen.
Is your middle name Douglas?
Yes.
All right, sir, you are here on charges involving domestic violence, disorderly conduct, and assault out of Green Valley. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. These are misdemeanor charges. Looks like you have 2 other pending cases out in Green Valley with the same victim of the domestic violence. In this case, those cases involve failing to comply with court orders. I note that you have an address on South Radiant Way. That does appear to be where the incident occurred and where the victim may be living. You're not going to be allowed to return back there if I release you. Do you have somewhere else you can go?
Yes.
So if I release you, Mr. Allen, you may not have any contact with the victim in this case, Ms. Chavez. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care if she wants contact with you. You are not allowed to have any contact with her. So no texts, no emails, no calls. That's the only way you're getting released today, is if you promise that you're not going to have any contact with her until something changes in the future with some other judge. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right.
That's fine.
So I am going to release you on your promise to appear on this case. Your next court date is going to be October 31st at 8:30 at Green Valley Justice Court. You do need to appear at that day and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. As I've indicated, your additional conditions of release are that you not commit any acts of domestic violence, and you cannot have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not go anywhere near where she is working or living, or any other contact of any kind. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
I guess, yes.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes.
Okay, you're all done for today, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.
All we have so far, that's that return.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Kendall Elijah Clayborn.
Mr. Clayborn, you are here on multiple charges involving domestic violence, criminal trespass, assault, disorderly conduct, and criminal damage, a couple counts of those. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I'm showing an address for you on Bannerstone. Is that still a good address for you?
Yes.
And if I release you on these charges today, you are not going to be able to have any contact with Miss Portis until something changes in the future. So are you residing somewhere that is not with her?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And if I release you, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you?
I do.
I am going to release you on your promise to appear today. Your next court date is going to be November 20th at 10 o'clock in the morning. That is going to be at Marana City Court. You do need to appear at that date and time, or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Your additional conditions of release are committing no acts of domestic violence, and you can't have any contact with the victim in this case. Don't go anywhere near where she is living or where she's working. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes.
And do you understand the consequences for failing to appear for any hearings in the future?
Yes.
All right, you're all done today, Mr. Clayborn.
Care. Okay. That's it.
That's me there. Michael.
Hi, sir, tell me your full name.
Brandon Michael Deare.
Mr. Deare, you are here on charges of disorderly conduct, 2 counts, and an assault. These are all domestic violence charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. If I release you today, sir, your conditions of release are going to be that you not have any contact with the victims in this case. I am showing that they are your stepdaughter and daughter and former partner. Do you have someplace that you can reside that is not with them until this case is resolved?
Yes.
All right. If I release you, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future at Justice Court?
Yes.
Okay. I will release you today on your promise to appear. Your next court date is December 2nd at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, 10:30 in the morning. And that will be at Pima County Justice Court. Your additional conditions of release are that you commit no acts of domestic violence. You can't have any contact with the victims in this case. Don't go anywhere where they're living or where they're working. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes.
Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for that hearing on December 2nd?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today, Mr. Deare.
Thank you. What do you need? Okay. So can you just raise it?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Perla Del Rosa.
Ms. De La Rosa, you are here on a few matters here today. You have a narcotic drug possession charge out of Marana City Court. And you also have something out of Tucson City Court, a warrant there for theft and other things. It looks like, according to my information, you also have a superior court hold for another felony matter. Jail, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. So we're not talking about your felony case today, Ms. De La Rosa. But whatever I do today for your conditions of release will be in addition to whatever's going on with that other case. Okay.
Okay.
So because you are still in custody on that other case and you have a couple of different warrants, I am going to impose a bond on this narcotic drug case, a $250 cash or secured bond. I am going to appoint Janet Altschuler to represent you. And your next hearing for this case is going to be tomorrow, October 30th at noon. You'll appear much like what's happening here today. If you're still in custody, it'll be a video hearing in front of the Marana City Court judge. If you post bond or get out on your felony case, then it is your responsibility to appear at Marana City Court. Do you understand those conditions of release on that case?
Is there any way, so tomorrow they said I'm supposed to be going to Superior Court. So I'm not sure what time I'm gonna be back.
Well, the jail is listening and they're paying attention to the next court dates that I have for you. So the next court date I have is tomorrow at noon. If you're going to Superior Court, it's probably 9 in the morning. I don't
Okay.
know that they can have you back by noon, but let them know when you go in the morning that that's what's going on. If you miss the court date tomorrow, then they'll have to reset it for you.
Okay.
The judge should be able to do that without a problem. Obviously, we understand that you can't be in two places at once. All right.
Okay.
And then let's talk about your city court case. On that case, I'm going to show that you're released. I'm not going to hold you or implement a bond on that particular matter. Your video review hearing for city court is going to be November 8th at 1:45 in front of Judge Mayhew. If you are still in custody, then you'll be appearing much like you're doing here today. If you post bond, you will need to appear at a date later than that, December 10th at 9 a.m. So you, when you get released, will get paperwork from the jail that'll have those dates on it that will help you remember.
Yeah.
But if you're still in custody on November 8th, then they'll put you again in front of video like you're doing today for those charges so that you can get that warrant taken care of.
Okay.
Any questions, Ms. De La Rosa?
No.
Right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hamilton? Yeah. Yeah. Are we back here to sit down, guys?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
My name is Gary Martha Jane Hamilton.
Ms. Hamilton, you are here today on charges of domestic violence, a disorderly conduct charge, and criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. If I release you, ma'am, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Promise.
And the other thing for today is I'm going to impose no contact with the victim, who does appear to be your husband. Do you have somewhere else you can stay with other friends or family?
Yes, but I have a question. I am the working person in the car. My prescription glasses and all my work clothes are at my house. How do I get those?
She'll tell you how.
Well, yeah, we'll absolutely take care of that for you, okay? You're going to need to go back with law enforcement just to make sure that there are no issues. I am going to release you today, so you're going to get released. Your next court date is going to be December 2nd at 10:30. When you get released later today, you'll get paperwork that'll have that date and time. It'll also have the court address for you and phone number. You're to commit no acts of domestic violence and have no contact with the victim in this case. I am going to check the box, ma'am, that allows you to return to the incident location, to the home, with a police escort. So either take the order that you get with your conditions of release to a nearby police station or call 911 and let them know that you need an escort. They'll meet you at a location close to the house, and then you guys can drive over to get whatever you need from the location.
And I can't see my husband until December 2nd, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
She asked about not being able to see her husband until December 2nd.
Right. So my order is going to stay in effect until a judge changes that in the future for you. Okay? It's not going to be forever, but for right now, that is the order. All right. Do you have any questions? Okay.
No.
You're all done for today, Miss Hamilton.
Person.
I feel it is ready.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
I'm Mariana, last name Person.
Sir, you are here on multiple charges involving domestic violence, disorderly conduct, and threats and intimidation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this matter. It looks like you were previously released to pretrial services for a third-degree burglary charge fairly recently. It is still showing a Pima County Justice Court case number. If I release you on these charges, Mr. Person, do you have somewhere else you can reside? Because you're not going to be allowed to return back to where your roommates are living.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. So I will release you on these charges today. You do need to contact pretrial services when you get released. When you get released later today, there is a window right there at the Pima County Jail. If you want to stop in and let them know that you were arrested and released on this matter, that's going to be important because I'm sure it was a condition of your release previously when you were released to them. So make sure you follow up with that information. Your next court date is going to be November 20th at 10 a.m. on these DV charges, and that's going to be Marana City Court. When you get released later today, they'll give you copies of your paperwork that have the conditions of release. You're not to commit any further acts of domestic violence and do not go back to the victim's residence. The victim in this case, Alyssa, did say that she would be willing to have contact with you, like over the phone contact, something like that, but you can't return to her house. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Do you need to return to the house to get any of your belongings?
Yes.
So
I got a duffel bag there. That's all.
Okay. I'm gonna check the box that says you can return with a police escort to pick up the belongings. Because you're not allowed to return there on your own, you'll need to take the order that you get when you get released to a nearby police station or call 911 and let them know that you need to be accompanied to grab your bag. All right, I just don't want you interacting or going back to that residence without making arrangements. And if you get a hold of Miss Malacara and the two of you work out how to get your bag without you having to go back there, that's fine too. You're just not allowed to return there. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you don't show up on November 20th at 10, Marana will issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, you're all done for today.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Roralie Stevens.
Ms. Stevens, it looks like you have a probation violation hold at this time. So regardless of what we do here today on some misdemeanor charges, there is going to be that hold. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So you are being seen today on charges of false reporting and drug paraphernalia. These are misdemeanor offenses. Looks like they date back to 2022, and the warrant in this case issued May 24th of 2023. There is a $350 cash bond listed on the warrant. I am going to impose that amount on this case. I'm going to appoint Janet Altschuler to represent you on this misdemeanor case. And your next hearing is going to be tomorrow, the 30th at noon. you'll still be in custody likely, and then you'll appear via video, much like you're doing today for purposes of that.
Okay.
All right. You're all done for today, Ms. Stevens.
That would be nice.
Oops. Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Jaden Jerome.
Mr. Taltimas, you are here today on a charge of domestic violence assault. It is a misdemeanor. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. If I release you, sir, you are not going to be able to return to your mom's house. You're going to have to find another address. Do you have the ability to stay somewhere else?
I'm sure I could find one. But am I allowed to go get my some stuff?
So I'll allow you to return with law enforcement to get stuff.
Okay.
Okay? If I release you, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to release you today on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be December 2nd at 10:30. That'll be at Pima County Justice Court. You will need to appear at that date and time or a warrant can issue for your arrest. Your additional conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case, who is your mother. You must establish an alternate address while this case is going on. Do not go back to where she's living, where she's working, no contact with her. You may return to the house with law enforcement to collect belongings. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork. When you do, it'll have that box checked. You need to make sure that you either call 911 or go to a nearby police station and show them this order, and they will accompany you to the residence. Do not go back there. Don't go back and sit out in front of the residence, for example, and wait for them to get there. Call and let them know that it's what you need to do, and they'll figure out a place to meet you. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yeah.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearing?
Yes.
All right, you're all done.
Michael Deare.
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Michael Deare.
Mr. Dozier, you are here on a charge of drug paraphernalia. This is the time for your initial appearance and arraignment on this charge through Tucson City Court. I do note, sir, that you have a hold out of the Department of Corrections. So regardless of what I do here today, you understand that you will be held on that. Are you aware of that?
I didn't know that was even came up until last night. So I got out in the end of 19, and I don't know. 'Cause I ain't been in no trouble or nothing, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was even.
Jail, are you still showing the DOC hold?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Dozier, you will be held
Yeah.
for that particular matter, and they'll work through that. The jail will be able to work through that with you. They'll be contacting DOC. I'm going to release you on the city drug paraphernalia charge. So whenever that gets resolved, you'll get released. If you are still in custody at the Pima County Jail, your next court date is going to be a video review hearing, much like you're doing today on November 8th at 1:45 in front of Judge Cenna. If you do get released between now and then, sir, and they work out your DOC hold, your next court date will be December 2nd at 2 in front of Judge Cenna. When you do get released, they'll give you a copy of your paperwork that will have your conditions of release, and that will have the court dates as well as the address for you. You are presumed innocent. I am entering pleas of not guilty on your behalf. If you do not appear for the court date that I gave you or any future dates, they can go forward in your absence. That could include a trial. If the trial goes forward and you're convicted and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, then you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand all those additional consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you are all done, Mr. Dozier.
Thank you.
Keith Dodson.
Judge, you need anything?
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Keith Charles Gson Jr.
Mr. Gotson, you are here today on charges of domestic violence, disorderly conduct. It is a misdemeanor. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is the time for your initial appearance and arraignment on this matter out of Tucson City Court. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. If I release you today, sir, you're not going to be able to go anywhere near Miss Cox while this case is going on. Do you have a place that you can stay that is not with her?
Yeah, 'cause the apartment where everything happened, she's not there no more, so it's just me.
So you aren't going to be able to have contact with her. So don't go to wherever she's living and wherever she's working. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And if I release you today, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yeah.
So I will release you today on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be December 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Millian. Your additional conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence and no contact with Ms. Cox. Don't go to her residence. And to the extent that you need to establish a different address, if she's not there and it's your house apartment, that's fine. Just no contact with her. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yeah, but like, I have a question. Am I able to contact her, like her dad or her mom for my kids?
Yeah, you just can't have any contact with her.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
don't talk about this case or anything that's going on with this case.
Okay.
It's also the time for your arraignment. You are presumed innocent. I'm entering a not guilty plea on your behalf for this charge. If you fail to appear for that court date that I gave you, the court date could go forward in your absence. Other court dates could also go forward in your absence, including a trial. If the trial goes forward and you're convicted and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand all of those consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today.
All right. Thank you.
Johnson notes.
The judge, you need right there.
Hey, sir, tell me your full name.
My name is Moses Johnson.
In jail, I show that he's on felony probation. Do you have a hold?
We're looking, give us one sec.
Okay.
We are not showing a hold on our end.
All right. So, Mr. Johnson, you are here today on charges of DV disorderly conduct, DV criminal damage, and false reporting to law enforcement. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Yeah, sure. They both work. Oh, yes, you're good.
Did you have something to say?
No, I just said yes, ma'am, but then or I said yes, Your
Okay. All right. So if I release you, Mr. Johnson, on these charges, you're going to have to promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future. Will you do?
Ma'am.
And when you get released today, you're going to have to contact your probation officer to let them know about this case. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. So normally there are holds placed. They didn't do that for this particular case. So I am going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be December 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. Your
Can
Go ahead.
can I go to my probation officer's office, because getting in touch over the phone is like really hard. He doesn't really answer his phone. It's a good idea. Yeah, I can just go in, right? That's a good idea.
Yeah, just make sure that you make contact with them. You'll get released at some point today, and that should be your first stop because they need to know what's going on, all right? All right, your additional conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence. You are not allowed to have any contact with Paulina Nunez. Do not go to where she's living or where she's working. Do you have some other place that you can stay that is not with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. This is also the time for your arraignment. You are presumed innocent. I'm entering not guilty pleas on your behalf to the charges. If you do not appear for that hearing on December 3rd, that hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial, can go forward in your absence. If you get convicted at a trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand those additional consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for today, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too.
Maldonado.
Right there.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Julia Maldonado.
Ms. Maldonado, you are here on multiple warrants out of Tucson City Court for multiple charges, indecent exposure. It looks like there's a loitering, false reporting, assault, disorderly conduct, another assault, and another disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. I am going to impose a bond on this matter, ma'am. This is the time for your initial appearance on all of these charges. I am going to impose a bond of $2,000 cash or secured. If you are able to post that bond, you're not to have any contact with the victims and don't return to any of the incident locations where any of these matters occurred. Do you understand those additional conditions of release?
Yes.
Right. I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. Your next hearing is going to be a video review hearing on November 7th at 1:45 in the afternoon. If you post bond, it's going to be your responsibility to show up at court. Do you understand that, Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that as well?
Yes.
Right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Marquez, Army.
That's the judge you need here.
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Bernabé Cárdenas Márquez.
Jail, I'm also showing that he is on a federal probation or parole matter. Do you have any holds on him?
1 second. We're not showing anyone.
All right. Mr. Marquez, you are here today on charges of assault, criminal trespass, and 2 counts of disorderly conduct. They are domestic violence related. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is the time for your initial appearance and arraignment for Tucson City Court on these charges. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. That is how I learned that you were on probation through federal court. If I release you on these charges today, you're going to need to contact your federal probation officer today when you get released to let them know about this case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Will you promise to do that?
You will. You already know them here.
All right. The other thing is you are not going to be able to have any contact with the victims in this case. So your former girlfriend, Ms. Rojas, and your roommate, Flores Rojas, you're not allowed to have any contact with them. Do you have some other place that you can stay that is not with them?
Yes.
All right. I will release you on your promise to appear. You're to commit no acts of domestic violence, and as I've indicated, no contact with Dulce Rojas or Flores Rojas. Do not go to wherever it is that they're living or wherever it is that they're working. You must contact your probation officer upon release. Your next hearing is going to be December 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. You do need to appear at that date and time, or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am. And you said that's December 3rd?
It is. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork. It'll have the date and time of the hearing as well as the address for Tucson City Court. This is also the time for your arraignment, so you are presumed innocent on these charges. I will enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You are required to appear at that hearing on December 3rd. If you fail to appear at that hearing and other hearings that could be set thereafter, including a trial, all of those things can be held in your absence. If you're convicted at trial and you don't show up and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand those additional consequences?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, you're all done for today. Make sure you contact your probation officer.
Thank you.
Scott?
Hi, tell me your full name.
My brother Sandra Scott.
Mr. Scott, you are here on a warrant out of Tucson City Court for criminal trespassing, shoplifting, and interfering with the judicial proceeding. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If I release you on this charge, sir, oh, it looks like actually you have a probation hold. Is that right, jail?
It is, Your Honor.
So regardless of what I do on this case, Mr. Scott, you're going to be held on your probation matter. I will release you on your city cases. So whenever your felony case gets resolved, you won't continue to be held on your misdemeanors. Your next hearing, if you're still in custody, is going to be November 8th at 1:45 in front of Judge Mayhew. And that's going to be a video review hearing, much like what you're doing here today. If you get released on your probation matter, you are not to have any contact with the victims and you can't go anywhere near any of the incident locations where these matters occurred. Do you understand those conditions of release? Was that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you do get out on your probation matter, your court date will be different. It'll be November 26th at 9:30. When you do get released, the jail is going to give you a copy of the paperwork from today that's going to have all of your court dates on it. All right?
Good.
All right. You're all done for today.
The judge is right here.
Hi, sir.
The judge will explain what's going on.
Hi. Tell me your full name.
Actually, Trista Turner.
Mr. Turner, so you were here today on a criminal littering charge, but it also looks like you have seven, you have 7 other matters that are pending at Tucson City Court where you've got some warrants issued for your arrest because you didn't show up to court.
There was no warrant, but they gave me a paper saying and the report did come back on November 8th. He said they didn't issue on one. I went to court on that day.
Okay, so it does look like, I'm looking at it. It looks like they said that there is an order to show cause hearing that was set because you didn't show up, but it looks like you do have a court date of November 5th at 9.
Yeah.
Are you going to show up? Are you?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to show up.
I promise you.
So if
We
I,
let me go. We let me go.
if I let you go today, you're going to have to show up.
All right, November 5th, right at the city court on Albany Street. Ma'am.
All right.
All right, on November 5th at 8 o'clock, right?
Okay.
Right now.
9 o'clock.
Right.
I
Oh, I love you.
Mr. Turner, I need you to pay
Yes,
attention to me. Okay.
Okay.
All
All right.
So for your criminal littering charge, I am going to release you on your promise to appear.
Okay.
Don't go back. Do not go back to the location where you were littering. Okay.
All right. All right.
All of your cases are going to be consolidated and heard on November 5th at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Blue. Have you seen Judge Blue before?
No.
Okay, you'll see Judge Blue at Tucson City Court. This is the time for your arraignment on this criminal littering charge. So I also need to tell you, sir, that you are presumed innocent on that charge. I am entering a not guilty plea on your behalf. If you don't show up at that court date on November 5th, the charges could go forward in your absence. Additional court dates could be set, including a trial. And if you're convicted at trial and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand those consequences if you don't show up, Mr. Turner?
Yes, ma'am.
You promise you're going to be there on November 5th and see Judge Blue, right?
I'll be there on the 5th.
Okay, you're all done for today, Mr. Turner. I'm letting you go. Today, you'll be released today.
Well, I should be. You get my property back, my backpack.
That's separately.
Did I get the other paper off? Should be good. What you didn't want to start it before?
Yeah, what about, I was 50, don't lose faith, and go out, what comes in my back, I'll back it back. Oh, that's great, receipts. They call that. All I can, that's under TV, that, all.
Yeah.
Somebody. Mr. That's. What is the opportunity?
Okay. Makes sense.
So there wasn't a.
Oh, yeah. All right. Did he finish whiting out?
No touching on.
Hmm?
No.
Come on.
That's the. Have chance you left. I'm seeing my entire picture.
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Jesus Francisco Ramirez Landeros.
Mr. Ramirez Landeros, you are here today on a charge of domestic violence, threats, and intimidation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. If I release you today, sir, you are not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victim, and you're going to have to find some other place to reside. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, when I was talking to pretrial services earlier, they asked if I had some place to go, and I told them I was able to go with my sister. My sister lives across town, so it would actually be a good distance also.
Okay. All right. So if I release you, are you going to promise to appear at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, I actually need to go to the courts today to get the number to my attorney because they said that they're going to give me the information when I got released last week, and I have yet to get that. So I think that'll be my best bet to go to the court, public defender's number, then see what plan we should take from then on.
So I do show that there are 2 other cases in justice court that are pending for you.
Yes, that was since I failed to appear. So they kept moving the court dates. I will appear, it's starting to get out of hand.
Okay. And they're not going to go away. So you do need to make sure that you show up. Okay.
I understand.
So for today, I am going to release you on your promise to appear. You're not to commit any further acts of domestic violence, and you can't have any contact with the victim. So wherever your brother is, do not go wherever he is living or working. There's some indication from pretrial that he's not going to be remaining at the residence. So I'm not going to restrict your ability to return to the incident location. I just need to make sure that you stay away from him. Do you understand that?
No, I understand. My dad will let me know because he's living there.
Okay.
He'll let me know when it's okay if that's an option. And I don't mind even if a police officer, even if he's not there, I don't mind if the police come and give me, no escort so I get my belongings. So I have no issues with that.
Okay, so I'm going to check that box that allows you to return to get your belongings in the event that he's still at the house, okay?
Thank you.
All right, your next court date is going to be December 2nd at 10:30 at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
I do understand the consequences.
All right, you are all done for today. Make sure you show up and get those cases resolved.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the next case is going to be the Spanish interpreter matter.
And I do think we have the Spanish interpreter on the line.
Yes, Your Honor, the interpreter is on the line.
Hola. Mi nombre es Esteban, su abogado.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Hola, señor, dígame su nombre completo.
Julio César Portillo.
Julio César Portillo.
Sir, this is the time for your initial appearance on felony charges relating to disorderly conduct with a weapon, a domestic violence offense, also promoting prison contraband and possession of a narcotic drug.
Y señor, esta es su comparecencia inicial con respecto a cargos de delito grave que son por alteración al orden público con arma de fuego, son delitos de violencia doméstica y también por promover contrabando en la prisión y por poseer una droga narcótica.
You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Tiene derecho a permanecer en silencio. Cualquier cosa que diga puede ser y será utilizada en su contra.
You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing today.
Y usted tiene derecho a un abogado. Yo voy a nombrar a la Defensoría Pública para que lo represente y el día de hoy tiene un abogado sentado junto a usted para el propósito de la audiencia de hoy.
I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services.
Tuve la oportunidad de revisar la información que me proporcionó los servicios previos al juicio.
I also note that the victim is present in court today.
También sé que la víctima está presente en el tribunal el día de hoy.
And ma'am, is there anything that you wanted the court to know at this time?
Señora, ¿hay algo que quiera que la juez sepa en este momento?
I'm going to need you to come up to the microphone so that the interpreter can hear you.
Necesito que se acerque a mi micrófono para que el intérprete la pueda escuchar.
Tell me your name.
Dígame su nombre.
My name is Imelda Hernandez.
Mi nombre es Imelda Hernández.
And Ms. Hernandez, I did see that in looking at the pretrial services information that you would like to have contact, but he is not welcome to return home. Is that still your position today?
Y señora, un momento. Y señora Hernández, veo con respecto a la información que tengo de los servicios previos al juicio que él sí puede estar en contacto, con comunicación con usted, pero no es bienvenido a regresar a la casa. ¿Eso es todavía su postura el día de hoy?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there
Sí, eso es correcto.
anything else you wanted the court to know?
I would like
¿Hay
to,
algo?
I would like to ask
¿Algo?
the court if the court would consider releasing Julio. Julio is the breadwinner in our home, and we have financial responsibilities together. We have debts and financial responsibilities together, and that is one of the reasons why I still need to have communication with him, because we need to take care of those things.
Bueno, yo quisiera pedirle a la juez si considera dejarlo en libertad a Julio porque él es el proveedor en nuestra casa y nosotros juntos tenemos responsabilidades económicas, tenemos deudas que todavía tenemos que ocuparnos de ella y por eso necesito mantenerme en comunicación con él para podernos ocupar de esas responsabilidades.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gracias, señora.
I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They are asking for a $7,500 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further after the interpreter?
Y también tuve la oportunidad de revisar las recomendaciones que que da la Fiscalía con respecto a las condiciones de liberación y ellos indican que tiene una fianza de $7,500 si es que llega como opción de fianza.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would like to be heard.
Si dice la fiscal, su señoría, quisiera que la juez pueda escucharla a la Fiscalía.
Your Honor, the state's looking for the $7,500 bond because this person apparently presents a risk to people in several categories. One, his own family, which he apparently threatened with a knife. His status as a breadwinner doesn't obviate his liability for something like that. We're looking at DV/DOC with weapons, possession of a narcotic drug, and the alleged attempt to smuggle contraband into the jail to wit drugs could have killed yet more people. He also has a history of failing to appear for court hearings as well as prior felony convictions. The state believes he is a flight risk and a danger to the persons around, notwithstanding his breadwinner status, because again, if he's a danger to them, the fact that he's a breadwinner does not matter.
Bueno, y si la Fiscalía indica que es apropiada una fianza de 7,500 porque él es un riesgo actual para la comunidad, para su familia, porque él amenazó con un cuchillo y sin importar, eso no tiene la consideración de que sea el proveedor de la familia, no debe ser algo a considerar debido a que él estaba portando armas, poseía un narcótico y también trató de ingresar contrabando a la cárcel y eso puede matar aún más personas. También no se ha comparecido a otros fechas de tribunal o de corte y tiene delitos graves previos, si es un riesgo de fuga y de causar daño a otras personas, lo cual sería el hecho de que sea el proveedor de la familia, no es una consideración, siendo que puede ser más un peligro para la comunidad.
Mr. Knox.
Señor Knox,
May I have one moment, please, Your Honor?
¿me permite un momento, su señoría? Sí.
Thank you for the moment, Your Honor.
Gracias por darme un momento, su señoría.
Mr. Portillo has the opportunity to live separate from the victim. He can live with his sister.
Y el señor Portillo tiene la posibilidad de vivir separado de la víctima, él puede vivir con su hermana.
He does have a job to return to.
Tiene un trabajo al cual puede regresar.
His most recent failure to appear was in 2013.
Y la más reciente falta de comparecencia que tuvo fue en el 2013.
And his most recent case was finished 4 years ago. He's been in the community since.
Y en su caso más reciente se terminó hace 4 años y desde entonces ha estado de regreso en la comunidad.
And finally, I think it's clear he's got a need to address substance use, and that can best be done in the community.
Y finalmente es claro que él necesita abordar el abuso de sustancias químicas y ciertamente eso se puede hacer estando en la comunidad.
So I believe he's most appropriate for release to pretrial services with DV conditions.
Y yo creo que es lo más apropiado que sea liberado a los servicios previos al juicio con las condiciones de violencia doméstica.
Mr. Portillo, I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services.
Señor Portillo, yo le voy a dejar en libertad para que esté con la supervisión de los servicios previos al juicio.
Your conditions of release are that you not return to the home,
Y sus condiciones de liberación es que usted no puede regresar a la casa o al hogar.
you may communicate with the victims in this case by phone only as it relates to your financial matters.
Se puede comunicar con las víctimas de este caso únicamente por teléfono con relación a los temas económicos, financieros.
If Ms. Hernandez does not want to speak with you, then you need to leave her alone.
Si la señora Hernández no quiere hablar con usted, usted debe respetarle eso.
You are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence.
No debe cometer ningún otro acto de violencia doméstica.
You'll participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services.
Y debe participar en cualquier tratamiento monitoreo que sea indicado por los servicios previos al juicio.
You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol, and you cannot have any illegal drugs.
No se le permite poseer o consumir ningún alcohol y tampoco puede tener ninguna droga ilegal.
You cannot have any firearms or weapon.
No puede tener ningún arma de fuego ni ningún tipo de arma.
Your next court date is going to be November 18th at 1:30.
Su próxima fecha de juicio de audiencia va a ser el 18 de noviembre a la 1:30.
That hearing is going to be a preliminary hearing, and it may or may not occur.
Y esa audiencia va a ser una audiencia preliminar y puede que se realice o puede que no se realice.
It will be important for you to stay in contact with your attorney because if dates change, you will be expected to appear for all future court dates in this matter.
Y es importante que usted esté en comunicación con su abogado porque si llega a cambiar la fecha de corte, se espera que usted esté presente en esa fecha y para cualquier otra audiencia futura que tenga que ver con este caso.
If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest.
Y si usted no comparece, se puede emitir una orden de arresto en su contra.
Do you understand all of your conditions of release, Mr. Portillo?
¿Entiende usted cuáles son todas sus condiciones de liberación, señor Portillo?
Sí.
And
Yes.
do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
¿Y entiende cuáles son las consecuencias si usted no comparece?
Sí.
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today, sir. Thank you,
Ya
ma'am.
terminamos por hoy, señor. Your Honor, I don't see there's any more Spanish interpreters, pardon, excuse me, Spanish defendants.
That is correct.
Would it be-
Yep, you're all done.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor. You too. The interpreter will now disconnect.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Is there any way we could see Mr. Salu next? I know he's third to last, but it would help the jail a little bit.
Sure.
You're the best.
Mr. Postone, do you have another batch that you could send to me?
Poston, another what?
Another batch of CA recommendations for today?
I sent them all to you, but I'll send them again. I will send them all right now to you again.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Hi, how you doing? My name's Emanuel Salu.
Mr. Salu, you are here today on felony charges involving unlawful disclosure of images depicting a state of nudity or other activities. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. Regardless of what we do here today, sir, it does look like you are on felony probation for another matter and they have a hold placed on you. I have had the, what is,
Sorry, you can keep going.
so what that means is regardless of what I do here today on your release conditions for this case, which is what we're here to talk about, you're going to be held on that probation matter. Do you have another felony case that you have pending as well, or is it just the probation?
No, I don't I didn't even have a felony, anything. I had like an open charge. And then it wasn't a felony or a misdemeanor. It's kind of how they explained it to me. And they said when I was done with my probation, then it would be turned into a misdemeanor.
That sounds like an undesignated offense. Jail, do you show any holds for him?
We do not, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't look like probation does have the hold on you. So whether you're on probation in that matter, unfortunately, I can't look it up. It is in CR 2024-0535. So that is the other active case that we have. The information I have from pretrial services is that you're on felony probation, but there is not a hold placed at this time. So I've had the opportunity to review the information pretrial services provided to me. I've also had the chance to review the state's recommendation. Mr. Poston, I see that you're asking for a no bond hold at this time. Are you able to verify? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's my understanding, Your Honor, he was on release for a separate charge whilst he caught this one. Therefore, under the rules, he is not. It is the state's option to set foot bond.
That is true if he is actually on release and that case is pending and he's not on probation. So let me see if we can look that up from here. Are you able to look that one up for me? Yeah. It doesn't look like he has any other holds. Mr. Knox, would you mind talking to him to see if you can figure out whether he's been placed on probation? I don't want the two of you communicating live over the air, but if you could talk with him and see if you can figure out if it's a case that's actually pending or if it's one that he's on probation for.
Yes, Your Honor, we did communicate. I had the microphone muted for that. Mr. Salu indicates what pretrial services has, which is that he was placed on probation September 23rd. He does have a probation officer.
All right. So if he's on probation, Mr. Poston, then he's not going to be eligible for no bond.
$75,000, Your Honor. This was violating a absolute state of intimacy. Revenge porn is absolutely abhorrent. And if there are one of these videos, there's going to be more likely, and this is violating the victim's rights in a most severe manner. 75,000.
Mr. Knox.
Your Honor, given the nonviolent nature, the fact that he's on probation and has a probation officer that he can go directly report to now, which is another level of supervision, he is appropriate for release to pretrial services with DB conditions. The offense he's on probation for is an undesignated one, and those are the reasons why he's appropriate for release to pretrial. I apologize. One last thing to add: he does not live with a named victim in this matter.
Your Honor, I think it's the elephant in the room is this sort of violations, this sort of accusation is going to likely end up being a violating of his probation or his release. And I think that this is going to be an extreme flight risk once that reality hits this man.
In Your Honor, to respond, he's in college, he has a job, he's in no way considered to be a flight risk. He got through his last case and he can get through this one as well. Right, I'm not seeing any failures to appear.
Mr. Salu, if I do release you today, you are not to have any contact at all with the victim in this case. Absolutely none. Julia does not exist to you. Whatever photographs, whatever it is that you have, you should not be possessing any of those. So you are not to post on social media. That's one of your conditions of release on this case if I release you. So do not post anything anywhere on social media. Do you understand?
No, just kidding. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. I will release you to pretrial services. I understand that you are already on probation, so you will need to contact your probation officer today when you get released from custody and let them know that you have this new case. They're going to need to know that. Your addition, your conditions of release are to stay in contact with pretrial services. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you may not have any firearms while this case is going on. As I've said, absolutely no contact with the victim at all under any circumstances. Don't go anywhere near where she's living or working, and do not communicate with her in any manner at all, not electronically, absolutely none. You are also not allowed to post on social media. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Sounds good.
Your next hearing date is going to be November 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for today.
Your Honor, a question, I apologize. Who was appointed for
Public-
representation?
Public Defender's Office.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If I forgot to say that, you do have the Public Defender's Office and Mr. Knox was with you.
That was probably me, but thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. This side. In the middle, all the way around. Loaded. Take care. Cheers. Okay, all rings on bringer. Thank you. The Anderson, you're first.
See right here. There's the judge and the attorney for the moment.
Hey, sir, tell me your full name.
Joshua Anderson.
Mr.
Joshua,
Anderson.
I'm sorry.
You're fine, Mr. Anderson. You are here today on a fugitive warrant out of Nevada. It does look like they issued a warrant for your arrest for a probation violation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing today. We are going to set your conditions of release. I'm not showing that there is a bond amount on the warrant today, so we're going to talk about that. I am going to set a hearing for you here in Pima County and appoint the legal defender's office to represent you. That hearing is going to be November 4th at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that will be to discuss whether or not Nevada is going to be extraditing you, if you're going to waive extradition or what's going to happen. So someone from the legal defender's office will be out to talk with you about what that hearing is going to look like. Today, it's a question of what we do as to your conditions of release, regardless of whether, well, if you're held, the jail will make sure you get to that hearing. If we do set a bond on this matter and you do post the bond, then you will be required to show up at that date and time. Do you understand, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing an address for you on West Speedway here in Tucson. Is that a good address for you here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Poston, I do see that you're asking for a no bond.
I did see that, Your Honor, and perhaps I misinterpreted the interstate version of this. If he was on, since he was on release, I'm looking at the documents from Nevada. Give me just one moment, please. Your Honor, I'm seeing these are fairly serious charges that he's being sought by Nevada on. I'm seeing misuse of a weapon or firearm, prior charges, resisting public officer, felon in possession. These are not insignificant charges. It looks like it's a probation violation.
Yes.
Now, if this was here in Arizona, he would likely be held on the probation violation. However, I believe it's even more important that he be held on a reasonable bond so that when the state of Nevada is able to get through all the procedures it needs to accomplish in order to get this person into the state of Arizona, into the state of Nevada for trial, he could be in the wind if it's not done expeditiously or if he's not held. What I'm seeing here, we see nothing about ties to this community, anything like that. He has no local address. Your Honor, he's a flight risk. The state asks for a $10,000 bond.
So the way that I read the warrant, Mr. Poston, is that he is on probation for a burglary offense out of Nevada. And it's the probation violation that has him here before us today. It looks like those other charges are priors involving weapons, resisting arrest, being a felon in possession, and an attempted forgery. So that's the way I am interpreting the warrant in this particular matter, the one that does not have a bond amount. And I did confirm with Mr. Anderson that he does have an address here in Tucson on West Speedway. So just wanted to clarify those things. Mr. Knox, did you want to be heard?
Thank you, Your Honor. For the reasons you mentioned, and also Mr. Anderson has indicated that he can go to Las Vegas this week to handle this matter. So we'll request that they quash the warrant, and then he would have documentation that he could take with him to show that he's had this hearing, and he can go to Vegas and take care of the matter.
I am going to impose a bond here, sir. It's going to be a $5,000 cash or secured bond. So if you're able to post that bond, then obviously you would be released. If you remain in custody on this, then again, your fugitive hearing on this matter here in Arizona is going to be November 4th at 2:30, and someone from the legal defender's office will be out to talk with you. So if you get released, sir, or you post that bond and you're able to be released, please contact the legal defender's office and talk with them about whether you should be traveling back to Nevada or if you need to go to the hearing here first. Because whether you're in or out of custody, that hearing is going to take place. Do you understand, Mr. Anderson?
Understand.
All right. You're all done for today.
Good morning, son. Your attorney. See the judge right here.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. Tell me your name.
Cindy Cenna.
This is Cenna. You were here for an initial appearance on a warrant that was issued for your arrest out of Pima County Superior Court for failing to appear at an initial appearance and arraignment. The charges are kidnapping, theft of means of transportation, third-degree burglary, and aggravated robbery. They are class 3 and class 4 felonies. You do have thing you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services that tells me a little bit about you. I've also had the chance to review information provided by the state regarding your conditions of release, which is what we're here to talk about today. There is a $25,000 bond that was placed on the warrant, it looks like back in March of this year. That is what the state is requesting, is that bond amount. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor, what I'm seeing here is a not insignificant, rather violent crime. Garza was allegedly involved in we're looking at theft of means. So she was allegedly involved in, I'm sorry, are we dealing with Ms. Garza right now? I'm a bit under the weather. My ears are blocked.
No, it's Cenna.
Excuse me. I apologize. I can't hear very well tonight. One moment.
In jail, while Mr. Poston is getting the information, I note that she is on felony probation. Do you have a hold for her? I don't think the jail can hear me because Mr. Knox has me muted.
Your Honor?
Hang on.
I see.
Hang on. Jail, do we have, I note that she's on felony probation. Is there a hold placed for her yet?
There is not, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Well-
Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, this person was party to a carjacking, allegedly. We're looking at kidnapping, theft of means, act robbery, part 3. They basically bum rushed their way into somebody's car with the victim still in it, drove away, and after about 4 or 5 blocks, so a little more than a half a mile, and all the while she was fighting back, and the victim was fighting back, and there was threat to the victim that they were going to shoot her if she didn't stop, and they eventually kicked her out. This is the kind of crime that proves a person is a present danger to society. Release would be incredibly ill-advised in the state's opinion because this person has already demonstrated to go after somebody who's just minding their own business in a car, as well as the prior history. I think the state believes $25,000 absolutely appropriate to protect the community.
Mr. Knox.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Cenna clearly lives apart from the putative victims here. She's been on probation for 8 months, which is another level of supervision. She's maintained her sobriety for a year now, has a 6-month-old child of her own, involved in services with Casa de los Niños, attending IOP. She's engaged in MAT services as well. And she's describing delicately a no level of participation in the alleged offense. For those reasons, I think she's appropriate for release to the supervision of pretrial services and to report to her probation officer immediately. She needs to re-engage with these services and continue with that.
I am showing the offense date as June of 2023. Is that what you show, Mr. Poston?
I believe so, Your Honor.
So that would predate her being placed on probation.
Let me double check the interim complaint just to be certain.
Yes, that's what we're showing as well.
I'll take counsel's avowal. Either way, Your Honor, this is somebody who thought that, so it doesn't look like there's grounds for a no bond on this one. However, subsequent to it, she got into additional crimes. It would appear she just finally got caught on this one. Doesn't change the fact that she is a danger by her own actions to society.
So what I'm showing, if I'm reading the information, it does look like the drug case that you're on probation for, ma'am, happened in July of 2023. You were released to pretrial services at that time. There was a failure to appear and a warrant that issued for your arrest. It does look like you got picked up fairly quickly because you were placed on probation in February of this year, and you've been on probation since on a couple different cases from 2023. So I don't understand what happened with the warrant in this case, but the activity does seem to predate your arrest on those particular charges. So for that reason, ma'am, I am going to release you to pretrial services. I need you to listen to everything that we're about to talk about because you're going to have some conditions of release. Do you understand? Mr. Knox, if you're muted, can you unmute, please? I don't know if you are, but I can't hear her.
I'm sorry, I was. That's on me.
Okay. All right. So you will be released to pretrial services. You're going to need to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. When you get released today, you must report to your assigned probation officer. So your very first stop or your very first phone call when you get released is to your probation officer to let them know that this warrant was out there for you. Do you understand?
Yeah, I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow because I'm so taken. Yeah, I'm so taken back by this.
You are not going to wait until tomorrow to contact them. So if you keep your appointment, but you need to call your probation officer today. All right.
Okay.
And it's because you've been on probation for 8 months and the activity in this case does predate your, the incident that occurred predates your being on probation. And since you are on probation and they haven't placed a hold and you've been on probation for 8 months, that's why I am going to release you. Pretrial services may make you have contact with probation more than them, but you're to follow any directions they give you. You're not to have any alcohol or drugs. You're not allowed to have any firearms or weapons. Those are already going to be conditions of your probation. You are not allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case. Don't return to the incident location. Your next hearing in this case is your arraignment. That was what you missed, and that's what caused the warrant to be issued. So your arraignment is going to be November 5th, next week at 1:30. You are going to have to appear 8th floor, Pima County Superior Court for that arraignment.
Okay.
If you don't show up, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, I just have another court that day too, but I'll make sure I go.
Is your other court at a different time?
I could check, but it's for my children, so I could just let them know that this is more.
Make sure that you are abiding by whatever your DCS conditions, whatever you've got going on there, you do need to abide by all of those as well. But for these charges, you must appear on November 5th. Someone from the public defender's office should be in contact with you, hopefully before that date, so that you can talk about everything that's going on. But there is absolutely no chance that you can miss that date without a warrant being issued. Got it?
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
And again, when you get released today, contact your probation officer and let them know what's going on, all right?
Okay, thank you.
You're all done, Miss Cecina.
Thank you so much.
Today, probation officer, tomorrow, pretrial.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Garza. One.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Larissa Garza.
Ms. Garza, you were here today on a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court for third-degree burglary, theft of means, and forgery. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you. It does look like you have a probation violation warrant that is going to hold you in custody. So regardless of what we do here today, you are being held on that probation matter in Superior Court case number 2021-0897. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release on these charges. There is a $5,000 bond on the warrant, and that is what the state's requesting. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor, we have the APO hold. The amount requested by the state reflects the seriousness of the accusations. State leaves it to the court's discretion.
Does look like the probation warrant issued back in 2022. Mr. Knox?
Your Honor, given the hold without bond on the probation matter, I think it's more appropriate for Ms. Garza to be held on a $1,000 bond in this matter so that she can earn time credit.
I am going to impose a $5,000 cash or secured bond on this matter. So if you get your probation matter resolved, ma'am, then you'll have that $5,000 cash or secured bond on this case. If you do post bond, you'll be released to pretrial services. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, and you cannot have any firearms or weapons. Do not have any contact with the victims in this case. Don't return to the incident locations. Your next court date is going to be November 5th at 1:30. That is going to be the arraignment. If you are still in custody at that time, you'll appear much like you're doing here today via video for that hearing. If you do get released, it is your responsibility to appear at that date and time, or a warrant can be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today. Tell me your full name.
Robert Buchanan,
And is that a junior?
Jr.
All right. You are here today, sir, on charges of kidnapping, aggravated assault, those are domestic violence offenses, second-degree burglary, ag assault with a deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, DV ag assault for impeding breathing, aggravated harassment. And you are also, it looks like, here on a separate interim complaint for an ag assault with a deadly weapon. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in both of these matters. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this matter. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation. Mr. Poston, I see that you are requesting a $75,000 bond on one of the matters and then a no bond on the other.
Your Honor, these seem to have happened on the same day, but they have been charged as separate matters. So if the court were to set bond on the first one, the second one would be by definition would be a no bond. What we have here, Your Honor, is on matter whose report ends 0061. We're looking at strangulation. There's a active N new violent crime flag. We have prior felony convictions, pending felony convictions, is on misdemeanor probation, failure to appear history. And there is also the stat that speaks volumes about persons that have been accused of strangulation and the eventual risk to the other party, hence the request, Your Honor. And then we have the subsequent crime, which by default, if the person is going to be released on one, catches another, it's arguable that this is the two crimes that would be necessary unless the court doesn't agree with that rule applying to the timeline.
So I think he actually has to be on release for them. The fact that he was arrested for both of these crimes at the same time means that he hasn't been seen by a court and he hasn't actually been released on either one of those matters. So the court's interpretation of the statute is that he is not eligible for no bond, and we would be setting bonds on both cases. So Mr. Knox, I don't know if you have a different reading of the statute, but that is the court's.
In that case, Your Honor, the state is asking for $75,000 across the board. These are violent crimes. This person presents a danger to people around him as well as the public in general.
Your Honor, yes, that's my interpretation as well, that the person charged has to be on a separate felony charge. And that's not the case here. In regards to the state's request for such a high amount, I will note that Mr. Gutierrez has another residence where he can reside. He is full-time employed. And despite his prior history, he has been in the community for the last 6 years without charge. For those reasons, I think $75,000 is far too high. And if we're looking at these two cases together, I'll ask for a concurrent bond in a much lower amount with release, with pretrial services conditions if posted.
I am going to impose a concurrent bond in the amount of $25,000. That is going to be cash or secured. If you post that bond in these matters, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you are released to pretrial, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment that they direct. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms while these cases are going on. I note in the pretrial services report that Ms. Gomez did indicate that she was willing to continue to have contact with you and did not object to your release. Mr. Gutierrez, my order today is that you are not allowed to have contact with the victim in this case. So I have considered what she has to say. I've considered the nature of the offense, and you are not to go anywhere near where she is living or working. And you are not to have any contact with her until there's some other order of the court. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
And commit no further acts of domestic violence. Your next court date is going to be November 8th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show up at all future hearings. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can be issued for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that relates to both cases in this matter. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're all done for today.
That's all of that.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Trevor Robert Helms.
Mr. Helms, you were here on a couple different matters today. One is new charges pertaining to possession of a dangerous drug and drug paraphernalia. You're also here on a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court for the same charges, actually narcotic drug possession or use and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent on these matters. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I did see that there is a $1,000 amount listed on the warrant in this case. Mr. Helms, you also may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court for the new charges that you have, not the warrant that you have, but the new charges. What that means is that if you want to participate in either inpatient or outpatient substance abuse treatment, and you qualify for the program, you complete all of the conditions of the program, the state will not go forward with these felony charges against you. Is that something that you're interested in participating in?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Given that, I am inclined to release Mr. Helms to pretrial services on both matters so that he can stay in contact with him and them and see if he's eligible. I do see that that was your recommendation as well. Did you want to be heard further, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Knox, did you want to be heard?
I agree that release to free trial in both matters is appropriate. I've got information about Smart Fort here for Mr. Helms.
Great. So, Mr. Helms, what I'm going to do is set a hearing for you for the substance abuse treatment court. It's going to be next week, November 5th at 9 a.m. That's in front of me. I'm Judge Miller. You're going to be on the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court. And when you show up that day, you're going to have an attorney from the public defender's office, pretrial services, and there's going to be a bunch of community partners that relate to substance abuse that you'll be able to talk with that day so that you can get signed up for services at that hearing. It's very important that you show up if you want to get this opportunity. Do you understand?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
You do need to stay in contact with pretrial services on this case, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol, obviously no illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing? Mr. Knox?
Yes, Your Honor. We're willing to waive time.
All right. And I saw that you discussed that with Mr. Helms. So we're gonna waive some time for the preliminary hearing. That court date is gonna be December 13th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing may or may not occur, but you are gonna be responsible for showing up at all future court dates, Mr. Helms. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
I understand.
Do you have a residence here in Tucson?
Yeah.
All right. Make sure that you show up next week. I'll see you on the 5th at 9 o'clock, all right?
All right. Thank you.
Oh, hang on. Let me give you your arraignment date in the other case. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. So that's going to be the same date, November 5th at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you'll be spending your day in Superior Court that day. Same conditions of release apply, sir, but that case is not eligible for the substance abuse treatment court because it's already been indicted. So you do have to appear for your arraignment. It'll be on the 8th floor. I'm sure Mr. Knox will write all of that down for you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All done. I try.
So I know. So the attorney, so just right there on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Break that word, James Jr., miss.
Mr. Jetty, you are here today for charges of possession of a narcotic drug and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. These are felony matters. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. We're here for your initial appearance and to set your conditions of release. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. What they tell me, sir, is that you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court. If you want to participate in either inpatient or outpatient substance abuse treatment, and you successfully complete all the terms of the program, if you are eligible, the state will not go forward with these felony charges. Is that something you're interested in participating in?
Yes, ma'am.
In light of that, and I do see the state is also recommending pretrial services release. That's my inclination. Does either party wish to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
So, sir, you are going to be released today to the pretrial services. You're going to need to stay in contact with that agency, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Your next hearing is going to be November 5th at 9 a.m. That's going to be in front of me. I'm Judge Miller. You're going to appear on the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court. When you show up that day, pretrial services will be there, your attorney will be there, and there will be several providers from the community for substance abuse treatment that you'll be able to meet with so that you can get signed up for services at that time. If you're eligible for the program, we'll do the contract that day and get you on your way. All right? You do need to make sure you show up for that hearing.
Are you going to show up on here?
Yes, I'm gonna show up. Yes, I'm sorry, bro.
So, Mr. Knox, are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing?
One moment, please. Yes, we're willing to wait time, Your Honor.
All right, and I saw that you spoke with Mr. Jetty about what that means. So we're going to set the preliminary hearing in this case, sir, for December 13th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing may or may not occur, but you are responsible to show up at all court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're all done for today, sir. I'll see you next week.
Right. Ron, thank you. Ron. Jeans.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Jeans Kuram.
Mr. Karam, you are here on charges of domestic violence, aggravated assault, impeding the breathing. It is a class 4 felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. He's not your attorney, but he will be representing you for purposes of the hearing. Jail, it looks like I show a status of parole. Do you have any kind of hold through DOC?
She's indicating no hold from DOC.
All right. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services, which is how I see that it looks like you're on parole currently. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation in this case as to your conditions of release. I will also note that there is an order of protection for the victim in this matter that is active as well. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further as to conditions of release?
The only thing I'd like to make note of here, Your Honor, is this does involve strangling. This person does seem to have 2 separate cases from 2022 of conviction for domestic abuse and violating a no contact order, and he did jail time for those. There is an existing OP here in Arizona as well. And honestly, everything here speaks to somebody with a history of violence, intimate violence, and the state feels that the defendant presents a present risk, particularly to women who he's able to convince to be associated with him. And for that reason, the state's requesting the $75,000 bail.
I will note that the court does not have a Form 4C to consider in this case. I should have, but I don't have that from the law enforcement agency. I do note that the victim did get an opportunity to speak with pretrial services. She does object to release and does not want contact. Mr. Knox, I will tell you that my inclination is to impose a $25,000 cash or secure bond at this time. Did you want to be heard?
Your Honor, in light of the recommendation, I would like to add that Mr. Kuram does not live with the putative victim in this matter. He has a part-time job that's about to go full-time in the next few weeks, and for those reasons, we'll request slightly lower.
I am going to impose a $25,000 cash or secure bond in this matter. Mr. Kuram, if you're able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to have any alcohol, and you can't possess any illegal drugs, commit no further acts of domestic violence, and you're not allowed to have any firearms. Do not have any contact with the victim in this case. Don't go anywhere near where she's living or working. No phone calls, no contact at all. If you remain in custody, the order is in effect. That means you may have access to visits, to phone calls, to other email communications. You are not to have any contact with the victim at all, whether you are in or out of custody on this case. If you do post bond and you get released, you're to contact your parole officer the very first working day after you get released from custody. So if you post that bond and you get out, you need to make sure that you let them know. I am indicating the active protection order on this paperwork as well. Your next hearing is going to be November 8th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur. If you remain in custody, the jail will make sure you're transported for your future court dates. But if you post bond and you get released, it's your responsibility to appear, or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release, Mr. Kuram?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear, that a warrant could issue for your arrest if you don't show up for court?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done for today.
Yes.
But the attorney, there's the judge.
Hey, sir, tell me your full name.
Del señor Ramirez Landeros.
Mr. Landeros, you're here today on a charge of domestic violence, disorderly conduct, recklessly discharging a firearm. It is a class 6 felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. They are recommending a bond in the amount of $15,000. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard?
Your Honor, this person is alleged to have, in a fit of rage, arguing with his mother and another relative, decided to brandish and point and discharge a weapon in their direction twice. Had his aim been at all good whatsoever, we could be looking at a pair of murders here. This is absolutely staggering, and the state stands by the 15,000 solid.
So I think you said mother was the victim. I show that his brother is the victim in this case. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Judge, I saw mom appear in the record as well as brother. So I can pull up I have the IC in front of me.
I do see that, but the noted victim that I have is the brother.
No, it was in its property, but the quote, the property is owned by the mother who was on scene and was a witness. So he discharged the weapon towards the brother in the vicinity of his mother. His own mother almost had to watch one child murder another. This person has proven himself unfit to be amongst free people, much less to have firearms. He is a danger to his family. He is a danger to his community, and he's a danger to society. State asked for 15, if not more.
And again, I know, Mr. Poston, you keep saying things, but his mom is not the listed victim in this case. It is the brother.
I understand, but this was in the presence of the mother when he shot at the brother.
Mr. Knox.
Yeah, you're correct in noting that there's one named victim. Mr. Landeros has the ability to live separate from that named victim. He has a part-time job to return to. He has an indication of mental health services that he desperately needs to engage with. For those reasons, he's appropriate for release to pretrial services. He's been alleged to have committed a class 6 felony. So for those reasons, we're requesting release to pretrial services, and that so he can engage with services and get to his job.
It does look like, according to pretrial, that his mother did verify his address and indicated that she could use her address, but she did decline to provide any additional support. So I will note that for purposes of the record. I see that there is only a misdemeanor prior for Mr. Landeros from 2011. Mr. Landeros, I am going to release you to pretrial services today. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any drugs or alcohol, and you are not allowed to have any firearms. Do you understand? Mr. Knox, you're muted. Can you unmute, please?
I apologize, Your Honor. He did indicate that he understands.
Yes, I
He said
understand.
no firearms. You understand?
I understand, Your Honor, and thank you.
All right, and you're not to have any contact with the victim in this case. That's your brother, but you're also not allowed to return back to the incident location, which is where your mom is. So you're not allowed to go back there. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am. I understood.
All right. Your next hearing in this case is going to be November 18th. It's a preliminary hearing. That will be at 1:30 in the afternoon. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Make sure you stay in contact with pretrial services and also be in contact with your attorney. Got it?
Will do. Thank you, Your Honor.
Done for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good. So I'm an attorney to the judge.
Hi,
Good
sir.
morning, Your Honor.
Tell me your full name.
Moses Jackson Methu.
Mr. Methu, you are here today on charges of aggravated assault, serious physical injury. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing. This is the time for your initial appearance where we set conditions of release on these charges. I do note, sir, that you have a probation hold. It looks like you have a probation violation warrant out of Pima County Superior Court in case number CR 2023-4952. So regardless of what bond I set in this case today, you're still going to have that hold. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. Mr. Poston, I see that you requested a no bond. He's on probation. I don't believe that that's eligible. Did you want to make a
Very well.
Did you want to make
Yes.
a different recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state requests $25,000. The defendant beat somebody over the head with a cooking pot. The victim was able to get away, collapsed in his apartment. He was taken to the ER. We're not even sure of his current condition. Multiple abrasions to arms, shoulders, bite marks on his back, cut to his temple, and all of the other injuries. They located the pot. It was severely bent, consistent with that. Plus, we have the allegation that when contact was made, the defendant made certain incriminating remarks. Your Honor, this person, for no good reason, beat somebody over the head with a pipe. Words, whatever they may be, do not justify that sort of thing. He's dangerous, and he has a criminal record. $25,000.
Mr. Knox.
The CA's recommendation does come with some mischaracterizations. There's no allegation of a pipe for one example.
I didn't say pipe. Pot, P-O-T.
And as Your Honor noted, there is a probation hold. And for those reasons, we're requesting a more reasonable bond in the amount of $10,000.
I am going to impose a bond of $10,000 in this matter. It is going to be cash or secured. If you're able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. Again, you're going to be with probation still, regardless of what happens on this case, sir. So you are to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial, no alcohol or illegal drugs, and no firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with the victim in this case, and you are not to return to the incident location. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next court date is going to be a preliminary hearing. That's on November 8th at 1:30. That hearing date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done for today.
Can't get up the other days. So you get with your attorneys. Okay. Please. Attorney, this is the judgment.
Tell me your full name.
Kayen Nicole Pearson.
Ms. Pearson, you were here today for an initial appearance on charges of narcotic drug paraphernalia and also narcotic drug possession. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. What they tell me, ma'am, is that you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court. What that means is if you're willing to receive services for substance abuse, either inpatient or outpatient, and you qualify for the program, review the information and agree to participate, and you successfully complete all of that, the state will not go forward with these felony charges against you. Is that something you're interested in doing?
Yes, ma'am.
In light of Ms. Pearson's willingness to participate, I am inclined to release her to pretrial services. I will note that that is the state's recommendation. Does either party wish to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Judge.
All right, so Ms. Pearson, I'm going to release you today to pretrial services. You're going to need to make sure that you stay in contact with that agency. You're not allowed to have any alcohol, obviously no illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Your next hearing is going to be November 5th at 9 a.m. That's going to be in front of me. I'm Judge Miller. It'll be on the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court. When you show up for that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to meet with your attorney who will be there. Pretrial services will be there. And you'll also have the opportunity to meet substance abuse treatment providers that also come to court so that you can get signed up for services if you do qualify for the program. And we'll handle it all on that day. Mr. Knox, are you willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing?
Just a moment, please, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor, we're willing to waive time on the PH.
All right, and I will note for the record that I did see you talking with Ms. Pearson about that. So the preliminary hearing will occur December 13th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing, ma'am, may or may not actually happen. So it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney. You will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Ma'am.
And do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I look forward to seeing you next week on the 5th.
Thank you.
That's all for today.
Okay. Thank you. I will.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Frank Levis Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez, you are here today on account of forgery. This is the time for your initial appearance on that charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this case. I've also had an opportunity to review information provided by the state with respect to their recommendation on your conditions of release. The state is recommending a $7,500 bond. Mr. Poston?
The defendant has an extensive history of DUI and ACT-DV. 7 priors, ACT-DV, DV, kidnap, ACT-DUI, prohibited possessors. Your Honor, I just see this person has a hard time complying with any societal rules and hasn't learned his lesson yet. Because pretrial services no longer categorizes their services as standard or enhanced, there needs to be some incentive that he does not violate additional laws, and clearly this is a lesson he hasn't learned. $7,500.
Mr. Knox, I am inclined to release him to pretrial. I will note that he does have criminal history. However, it looks like he last completed a sentence in 2016, and I don't note anything since that time. Did you want to be heard further?
That was the argument I was going to make. In addition, Your Honor, he's got the support of his girlfriend to jumps through the hoops that he has to get through this case too.
So, Mr. Rodriguez, you are going to need to stay in contact with pretrial services if I release you, and you are not allowed to return to the incident location in this matter. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you willing to abide by those?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So additional conditions, staying in contact with pretrial, as I indicated, participate in any monitoring or treatment that they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. No firearms while this case is going on. Do not have any contact with the victim. Do not go back to the incident location, not for any reason at all. Your next hearing in this case is going to be a preliminary hearing on November 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
Make sure you stay in contact with your attorney in addition to pretrial services, and they'll make sure that you're kept informed on court dates, all right?
Okay.
You're all done for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
I'll look at these two. I'll reach out, report to them. I'll find out where your agendas and get that. All right. Okay. You'll be later today. Yeah, getting out tips. Thank you. Yeah.
Tracy.
I'm the attorney. The judge is right here.
Hey, sir, tell me your full name.
George I. Tracy III.
Mr. Tracy, you were here today on a couple of different matters. The first is on charges of possession of paraphernalia and possession of a dangerous drug. These are felonies. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. You are also before me for an initial appearance and arraignment on a criminal trespass charge out of Tucson City Court. We're going to talk about that one in just a minute and focus on your felony cases or your felony charges first. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services, and what they tell me, sir, is that you may be eligible to participate in substance abuse treatment court. If you are willing to receive treatment for substance abuse and you participate either inpatient or outpatient and complete the program, then the state won't go forward with these felony charges if you successfully do everything that's asked of you. Does that sound like something you're interested in?
Yes.
All right. With that, I am inclined to release Mr. Tracy to pretrial services. Does anyone want to be heard further?
Thank you.
All right. So, sir, I'm going to release you to pretrial services. So you're going to be released to them later today. You will need to stay in contact with them. I see that you have a general delivery address. Do you have a place to stay right now, Mr. Tracy?
Yeah, I stay with a friend.
Okay. When you get released later today, another option for you is the transition center. It's right outside when you get released. It's a trailer that's near the jail property. If you stop by there, they may be able to assist you today with housing or other substance abuse or treatment services. So it's an option. You can go by there. I'm not ordering you to, but you may be able to find some services that would benefit you. You need to stay in contact with pretrial. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Your next hearing is going to be next week, November 5th at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's going to be in front of me. I'm Judge Miller. You're going to come to the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court. You'll meet with your attorney. Pretrial services will be there, and also substance abuse treatment providers from our community will be there as well. You'll have an opportunity to meet with them, and if you're eligible for the program, sign up that day for services. Are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing, Mr. Knox?
Just a moment, please. Yes, Your Honor, we'll waive time in the PH.
All right, so we'll show that time being waived. We will set the preliminary hearing date on December 13th at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you're going to need to make sure you stay in contact with your attorney. You are responsible for showing up at all court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, so that's all for your felony case. Make sure you show up on the 5th at 9. It's really important. Your city court case, I'm going to release you on your promise to appear on that case as well. Your next hearing in Tucson City Court is going to be December 2nd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Verena. Same thing, sir, you do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. This is also the time for your arraignment on that charge. You are presumed innocent. I am going to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. If you don't appear for that court date I gave you on December 2nd, that court date and other court dates could be set in your absence, including a trial. If you get convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand those additional consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today. I'll see you next week.
I'll answer.
Calling your attorney, the judges are in. Ryan Curtis White.
Mr. White, you were here today on charges involving a narcotic drug violation and drug paraphernalia violation. Those are felonies. It is a warrant that has you before us today for failing to appear for an initial appearance and arraignment on those charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. It also looks like there was something out of Flagstaff as well, a post-adjudicated warrant out of Flagstaff Justice Court. So, in reviewing all the information, I will note that the bond amount on the warrant is $500. Mr. Poston, I see that you check the boxes for steps and SMART, but because the case is indicted, he is not eligible. It is my inclination to release to pretrial services. Sir, we also are going to talk about a Tucson City Court matter as well, but we're going to do that after we finish your felony charges. Mr. Poston,
Yes, Your Honor.
did you want to be heard
Yeah,
further?
There was an oversight on my part that it was posted in type. I did send I believe I sent a updated version at the staff member's request. It doesn't seem to have gotten to you, but state will leave this to the court's discretion.
All right. I'm showing an address on North Flowing Wells. Is that still a good address for you, Mr. White?
Yeah.
All right. So with my inclination to release to pretrial, did you want to be heard, Mr. Knox?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So Mr. White, I'm going to release you today to pretrial services. That means that you must maintain contact with that agency. Mr. Knox will give you the phone number for them. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs. You can't possess any firearms while this case is going on. Your next court date is an arraignment. That's going to be on the 8th floor of Pima County Superior Court on November 5th at 1:30 in the afternoon. You must appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear at that arraignment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now let's talk about your city court case. You are here for an initial appearance and arraignment on those charges. It does involve criminal trespass and drug paraphernalia. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You are presumed innocent. I am going to release you on your promise to appear on those matters. Do not return to the incident location. That's where the victims are of that criminal trespass. Do not go back there. Your next court date on your city court case is going to be November 25th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That'll be in front of Judge Cranshaw at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you're going to get copies of your court paperwork, and it's going to have that date and time on it, also the address for Tucson City Court. I do need to tell you, sir, that if you don't appear at the time that you're ordered to appear on November 25th at 2, that hearing and any subsequently set hearings can go forward in your absence, including a trial. If you're convicted at a trial and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand those additional consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done for today, Mr. White.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we are done. Thank you so much for your help and patience.